Begin with the end in mind. Presented by Matt Boone, BCS, and Dr. Harriet Able.
Hello. Thank you all for making the time to be here at STEMIEFest 2021. We're excited to have here with us today Dr. Harriet Able, who is the Associate Dean in the School of Education at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and the mother of Matt Boone, who recently graduated with a degree in computer science and is currently pursuing a master's degree in library sciences at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We're looking forward to hearing your stories and helping us increase access to and full participation in STEM learning opportunities for all children and their families. Let's start with some brief introductions. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Amsbury. I am a member of the STEMI team. I have blonde hair and brown eyes. I am white and wearing a black t-shirt, sitting at my desk in my office. Harriet and Matt, would you mind both providing a quick audio description of yourself?
Hi, I'm Harriet, and I am sitting in my office with a plant in the background. I have blonde hair and I have glasses on, and I'm wearing a sweater because it's a great fall day in Chapel Hill this afternoon.
And Matt?
Hello, I'm Matt Boone. I have blonde hair with glasses on and a black t-shirt that says I'm thinking on it. I'm sitting at my desk at home.
All right. Well, welcome. Welcome, both of you. We're so happy to have you here to share your stories and perspectives. I'm going to start with a question for you, Matt. If you don't mind sharing a little bit with us about what you were like as a kid.
I was really into stuff like dinosaurs, Pokemon, and Legos, and I was good with science and math in school.
Yeah?
With my best grades being in those subjects.
That's great. And that actually leads me right into my next question, which is, what's your earliest memory of doing something science and mathy or STEM related when you were a kid? You said they were your favorite subjects.
Yes. Like I said, those were typically my favorite subjects in school.
That's great.
And I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Yes.
Harriet, I'm going to turn to you for a second now to share what you remember the most about Matt as a kid.
Well, what I remember about Matt as a kid, and even now as a young adult, is he always had a great sense of humor. He was always joking around. And Matt had significant expressive language delays as a child. And so communication was always somewhat of a challenge for him. But he always got his message across. And he was always very clever about getting his message across. I can remember his helping me fold clothes and put things in stacks. And he would think it was so funny when he put his sister's socks in his dad's stack of clothes, or he put his sister's socks in his dad's drawers. And he used to he loved Chick-fil-A nuggets. Who doesn't love Chick-fil-A nuggets? And Matt used to hide them, in all sorts of places. And he'd run around the house and show us where he hid them. So I knew that even though he wasn't communicating in conventional ways, that he was very, very smart and he was very clever. He was always building things. He was always making up games and doing things. So he was just a busy child. He was industrious.
Yes. And it sounds like he's doing all kinds of different STEM-related activities as a child, too, even that down to the sorting of laundry. When you're sorting, you're actually comparing and contrasting and doing STEM work. That's great. So, Matt, you're a natural-born STEM studier and doer.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to shift focus a little bit and talk more about your experiences growing up and navigating through life's systems and challenges and obstacles. And my first question for you, and this is for both Matt and Harriet, is what or who has been the biggest contributor to your successes? Harriet, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. I think Matt's temperament really has contributed to his success. One thing about Matt is he is very determined, he is very motivated, and he's very focused. He has the persistence and what we call in early childhood the mastery motivation to really master something. Often, I can remember some of his homework tasks, and even now that he's in graduate school, some things take him a little bit longer than they would other folks, but he is always determined to get things done. He is very organized, and he's been that way as a child. I remember, we used to always leave notes for each other on the kitchen table. Well, he leaves notes for me now on the kitchen table about things to do. And I see on his desk at home that he keeps notes. He keeps his checklist about things. So I think that always has served him well, his focus and his persistence. Matt, would you agree? What can you say about that?
Yeah, like my mom said, I've always been motivated and I've always liked school. Also, my teachers usually do like me because of my hard work ethic.
That is very true. Matt was always kind of the favorite kid in school because he has such a strong work ethic and he's a rule follower.
That is great, Matt. I think that many of us could learn from you and your perseverance, right? Matt, I do know in particular, you're pursuing your master degree in library science at UNC Chapel Hill, which is one of the best programs in the country, right? If not the best, which is fantastic. I think that's amazing. And I'm wondering if you have anything in particular that you think helped you get to where you are now related to that huge success of getting into this highly competitive and highly sought after program?
Probably my experience with people before has helped. And of course, my work ethic.
Yeah. That work ethic does a lot for you, right?
Yes.
And I'm also curious, both for you, Matt, and you, Harriet, about challenges that you might have encountered on your journey to success. Matt, is there any challenge in particular that you remember having to overcome in any of your journey?
Yes. People usually do make false assumptions about me because of the way I talk or walk. Like me not being as smart as other people.
Oh, I think you're smart as everyone, Matt, for sure. But yeah, Harriet, how about, do you have anything to add as far as challenges that you faced as a family together as Matt continued to succeed and work in school and beyond?
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I mean, even family members and close friends maybe have sometimes made false assumptions about Matt, and they really aren't true because honestly, Matt is quite smart. You just need to be patient about listening to him and understanding him. And he has a great sense of humor because one time he told someone that he talks the way he does because he has a Russian accent. So he really kind of he knows how to make light of the situation. I guess as a mother, what I would say is that I've really always focused on his strengths and his interests and not his diagnosis. And seeing that he's highly motivated, that he loves school, that really promoting that. Also, he, even though reading was difficult for him at first, he has always loved books and he has always loved going to the library. So he began volunteering at our community library when he was in 6th grade. And he's continued to volunteer in libraries or work in libraries since that time. And I think that is just an example of following his interest, following where he is comfortable. He's always been very comfortable in a library. I think it's a place of respite for him. So, being in this library science program is a dream come true, truly, for Matt, to be able to pursue this and be able to pursue this kind of career. Would you agree, Matt? Anything else I should say about that, or you want to say about that?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay. I will have to say that, I have been very fortunate as a parent because I'm a special educator. And I have known what I needed to do to advocate for him. I remember that when we'd always have his annual IEP meetings, it would always be around Girl Scout cooking time. And his sister was a Girl Scout, so I would always bring Girl Scout cookies. And so the reason I did that is because I was a very strong and continue to be a strong advocate for him. But I tried to do that with finesse. Some people call me a bulldog with lipstick. And I can be that when it comes to Matt Boone. Oh, Matt's shaking his head, or even his sister Kate, is that I knew how to access supports. I knew how to always advocate for fully inclusive services for him, meaning that he got his speech therapy and occupational therapy in his classroom with typical developing kids. He did that throughout his whole school career. And it was because I knew that was what was really important for him.
Yeah, Harriet, had you not coined or brought up the bulldog with lipstick, I was definitely going to share that term. As I know no one who fits that picture more so than you, the classic bulldog with lipstick, Harriet Able. Would you agree with that, Matt? I know you sort of said no earlier. Sort of. Yeah, it's a so-so, I guess, when it's your mom, right? All right. So the next topic I thought would be great to get both of your thoughts on has to do with giving advice to different groups of people. And my first question in this category has to do with advice that you both, Matt and Harriet, have for families of young children with disabilities and for young children with disabilities as they grow up and engage in learning experiences in school and early intervention and all the different experiences and opportunities that the children and families will be experiencing, for lack of a better word. So what is your advice for families? Matt, would you like to go first?
My advice would probably be to walk with them and be patient, of course, and whenever possible, try to treat them as regular people.
That is fantastic advice, Matt. Thanks for sharing.
You are welcome.
Any other thoughts you have maybe for the children, any children that are navigating through systems?
Probably to be patient and to work hard and to try.
Yes, always try. I think that is fantastic advice. Thank you. And Harriet, how about you as far as specific advice or pointers that you might have for families of young children with disabilities?
I think it's always important to realize your children's strengths and to go with those. And that's what I've tried to do with Matt, to really focus on his strengths and interests and let that lead the way in terms of what he pursued in college and what he's now pursuing in graduate school. And I think the key is to encourage them and to be positive. And my example is that Matt was applying to several graduate schools for library science and was not going to apply to Chapel Hill because Chapel Hill is typically very competitive. And I just said to him, well, you won't get in if you don't apply. And he did apply. And I remember his working really, really hard on that application last spring and early summer. And he stuck with it and he got in. So I would just encourage that as a parent, that it's important to encourage your child not to let the diagnosis or the label limit your child. And that just to remember that you are decision makers for your children and even for your adult children in some respects. So it's very important to know about services and supports and always advocate for the best for them.
Yeah, that is great advice as well. There's one more group of attendees that we have had in the past at STEMIEFest and anticipate that there are some in the audience right now. But these are, I'm thinking about practitioners, both early intervention providers, teachers, speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, all kinds of different professionals and practitioners are likely tuning into this panel right now. And I'm wondering if you have any specific advice for them as they work with families and with children with disabilities.
Well, I think it's very similar to what I would say to parents is help parents realize their child's strengths. Help them also to understand their child's special need or disability so parents can be able to articulate that to friends and family. And also help them to understand the services and supports. What really works, what doesn't work, what are evidence-based practices, and help parents learn that they can be strong advocates for their children because parents are the decision makers for the child, at least certainly at an early age and through elementary school. And we as practitioners are really information brokers for families. And that comes with a lot of responsibility in terms of helping families be informed decision makers.
Yes, I love that. Empower the families with the knowledge and skills to be the decision makers for their children. That's a very family-centered service approach, Harriet, very much along the lines of what we strive for in early intervention and early childhood. And then, Matt, I'm curious if you have any memories of therapists or teachers or service providers that impacted you particularly and how that might translate to advice for other service providers like teachers and the like.
My teachers were really patient and understanding with me. And the librarian at my old middle school used to let me stay there, at the library when I needed to.
That's great. And you love libraries, so that worked out nicely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I might add about that recess and lunchtime was kind of hard for Matt, often at middle school, because it wasn't very structured and everything. And the librarian was perceptive and sensitive enough to involve Matt in just library activities and volunteering. So that kind of began his journey and his love of libraries. Right, Matt?
Yes.
Oh, we've come full circle. I love it. That's a great story to share. Thanks for sharing. I would like to just now give you a minute to share anything else that you want to say right now. We will follow this with some live portion at STEMIEFest, but right now I'm just going to stay quiet and see if Harriet and Matt have any final thoughts that they want to share right now.
I think it's really important to think of a student or a child with a special need as being really half full of potential and ability and not half empty. And we know that adults with any kind of developmental disabilities do a lot better when their families have been involved and when their families have had very high expectations for them. I feel like I've done that for and with Matt. And so I would just advise other parents in the audience, as well as practitioners, that, we need to encourage families to have high expectations for all their children, and particularly in these STEM-related areas. Often those are areas that really tap into a child's or a young adult's creativity, and that's when you can kind of unlock all of those capabilities.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. And we know that some children with disabilities don't have the same access to STEM learning opportunities as children without disabilities. So, and you point out that it's even more important for all children to have access to expand their creativity and problem solve and use those STEM skills as they navigate systems and accomplish things. Matt, any thoughts, any final thoughts from you?
No, I don't think so.
Well, thank you both for being here. I think I'm hearing that a main theme today is just keeping our expectations high for all children, regardless of ability, race, anything. I think that's something, a big take-home message that I'm hearing, at least. And thanks again for being here. We will have a few more questions here live, and you guys are great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Harriet and Matt. That was a lovely, lovely panel. The only complaint I have is that I had to watch and listen to myself on that video recording, but it was worth it. It was a great conversation. Welcome everyone to this Keep the End in Mind panel. My name is Jessica Amsbury. I'll be moderating today. I have blonde hair, brown eyes. I'm a white female, and I'm wearing a bright pink short sleeve shirt sitting at a desk in my living room. You can see my stairs in the background. And next, I will prompt both Harriet and Matt to give a quick self-description, and then we'll expand this conversation into some new ideas and questions. So, Harriet, would you like to do your description first, and then you can pass it over to Matt? I think you might be muted, Harriet. It's okay.
Sorry. Good afternoon. I'm Harriet, and I have on a blue jacket and blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm a white female, and I have a big plant behind me. I'm sitting in my office.
Hello, I'm Matt Boone. I'm a white male with blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm wearing glasses and a sword with blood on it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you both for being here and making time for this live portion of the conversation. I wanted to say out loud some of the comments that have come through in chat, just so you all can hear them. It looks like someone put, "Thank you for sharing your story. It gives hope that what I do as an early interventionist does make a difference." So that's great. That is great to hear. There's one to you, Harriet. I know you were proud of Matt and the young man he is becoming. And we have one more that said, "Loved hearing about your thoughts and experiences." So far, everyone's loving it. So let's keep it going. I have a couple questions that I think would be interesting to hear your perspectives on. And this first one is somewhat similar to what we talked about in the panel, Matt, when we talked about when you were young and your interests in science and math. But if you could go back to your 4-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Probably to do you pay attention to computers and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice to your 4-year-old self, I think. Thanks for sharing. And then another topic I wanted to touch on, and then I actually see there are questions from the panel too. So I'll ask you this one and then move into those. But for both you, Matt and Harriet, I'm curious if there's anything, any resources or support that you wished you'd had that you didn't have as you navigated early intervention into preschool and elementary school, into college and now graduate school and beyond. Is there anything that comes to mind that you wish you'd had?
Well, we always hear families talking about this, and I think we really stress this in early intervention and special education. But transitions are tough, and there are lots of transitions from infant toddler services to preschool to kindergarten to first grade, third grade when elementary students are having to do what we call in North Carolina end of grade test. Even now, I mean, this huge transition from college to adulthood and what Matt would do, it's always very scary. And I don't think we can underestimate the need that families have to have transition supports, to have the knowledge about how to navigate services and support for themselves and their child. I think that's just critical that we need to continue to focus on that.
Yeah, right. And even with your background and skills, it sounds like you could have benefited from additional supports with transitions. And those are challenging for everyone, the educators, the families, and the children. So I think that's a really good point. And I know a lot different fields are working on increasing transition support, but it's something that needs to happen soon, right? Sooner than later. Matt, any thoughts on any resources you wished you'd had?
I cannot think of anything right now.
Yeah. Okay. No problem at all. There is a question in chat for you, Harriet, and it says, Dr. Able, so I will call you Dr. Able. How did you balance being a mother of a child with special needs and a special education professional?
Well, I think any working parent, the balance is always very, very tricky. And but I have always been real careful that when I am at home, I'm at home. And my example of this is, I'll never forget this, that Matt's older sister, Kate, was probably about 9, and someone called us at home and asked to speak to Dr. Able. And Kate said, he doesn't live here. You have the wrong number. And I just thought, wow, good for me. I have achieved what I wanted to achieve, is that when I am at home, I am viewed as the parent, the mother, that sort of thing, and not as Dr. Able. And of course, I had a conversation with her about, females can be doctors, and, that really is my title and that kind of thing. So I think you just have to get your priorities straight. I mean, for me, my children have always been my top priority, both Matt and his sister, Kate, and everything has fallen into place. I mean, there are challenges, there are peaks and valleys through navigating all of that, but you work it out once you sort out what your values are in terms of what you want to prioritize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That is great life advice as well, Harriet. Thanks for sharing. Related somewhat, I'm curious about your experiences, and this is sort of also overlapping with the fact that you are a special educator yourselves. And I'm interested in your experiences in creating family school partnerships and family practitioner partnerships from early intervention, through the years. and what you have found successful in those partnerships, what you think is lacking, and if you have any thoughts on how we can be more purposeful in our creation of these partnerships with the families.
We always stress the importance of relationships, and we always talk about that with early intervention professionals and with teachers. But I think a real relationship is reciprocal, that parents also have a responsibility for relationship building and with the folks that are working with their child. So I always try to do that. And I mean, whenever I went to a school meeting about math, I was very insistent. Don't call me Dr. Able. I am not Dr. Able in this meeting. I am Matt's mama. And, refer to me as that. That's who I am at this meeting. So I tried really, really hard to be very personable and relatable and not intimidating, because I have a doctorate in special education and I'm a professor and that sort of thing. I just wanted to be viewed as his mother and as his advocate. And I think that helped a lot, that, we still have great relationships with some of the folks that knew Matt way back when he was younger, and high school, middle school, that sort of thing. And they refer to me as Harriet and not Dr. Able. And that's exactly what I had hoped would happen.
Yeah. That's great. So something as simple as a name can make a huge difference, right? In our communications with partners and friends and families. I think I'm going to shift a little bit here and I'm going to ask about both you, Matt, and you, Harriet, about your perspectives about the recent and ongoing pandemic and how that impacted your experience and, your life in general on your individual level. I know, Matt, you were in college at the time, right?
Yes.
And I'm just curious how you handled the pandemic shift.
Well, my classes were shifted to online, and so I had to do tests and stuff on Dale. Well, online, so that was somewhat of a challenge.
Did you find the tests easier to access online or harder or about the same?
About the same.
Yeah. I know I am personally not a fan of tests in any form, so I think I would be on the same page with that. But Harriet, from your perspective, I know you have 2 children, but when this all happened and schools were closing and everyone's going virtual, what kinds of shifts did you have to make? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is a funny Matt story. Anybody that knows me knows that I am very social and very gregarious, and I get a lot of energy from being with people. And Matt said to me, he said, "Mom, I know that you're really having a hard time with this social distancing, but it is really my dream come true." So I think that the pandemic kind of affected us all in different ways. With Matt, honestly, I worried about him being in a single room in college and not going to any face-to-face classes and having very limited social contacts. He likes that. He did really well in school with that sort of thing. I would have done terribly. So, again, who I am and what I would perceive as the supports he might need was not, really what he needed or what he wanted. So there again, I think it was kind of a lesson for me. Wow, listen to him. Social distancing is a good thing for him. Not so much for me, but certainly for him. So I think it all kind of depends on your perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember seeing different friends of mine and posting on social media around the time of the pandemic. They're like, who knew it? I've been social distancing since since I was born. So yeah, it is interesting how it's perceived differently by different people. I think it'd be also interesting to talk a little about your daughter and how her relationship with Matt has been beneficial, and just a little bit about, how that all worked out in your family.
Matt, you want to talk about Kate?
You can.
Oh, okay. Well, Matt and Kate are best friends. They have always been best friends. And it's about a 3-year difference in years. And Kate is the oldest. And even as a child, when Matt's articulation was poor and we couldn't often understand what he was saying, Kate could interpret everything for him, everything. And she used to cry because she would always want to go to speech therapy with him and that sort of thing. And we let her go. She kind of became the assistant speech therapist. And I've always worried that she felt like she had a responsibility for him. But Matt's very independent and he's very self-sufficient. And even now, as young adults, I would say that they are really best friends. They like many of the same things, that kind of thing. And I think that has been a source of strength, certainly, and certainly a source of support for Matt. And even for her, I think she likes that responsibility to kind of see about him. One of our challenges right now is that Matt does not drive. And it really does kind of drive us all a little bit crazy that he doesn't drive, So Kate negotiates that with him, that if he wants to go somewhere, okay, well, he's going to pay for the movie or he's going to, that kind of thing. So she's really clever about how she supports him in that she helps make him independent while she's supporting him. And it's been a very beneficial relationship, I would say, for them both. And those of you that are parents in the audience, and you have multiple children, that it is a delight to see your children be close and really love and support each other. And certainly in the case of Kate and Matt, that has been true. Is that right, Matt? Would you agree?
Yes.
Matt, were you going to say something else?
No.
Okay, I couldn't tell if you were getting ready to say more there or not, so I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm also, while we're on the sort of family topic, I'm curious, and it has less to do with STEM, but we could work STEM into it. But I'm curious about what kinds of things you all like to do together. What does the whole family like to get together and do? And it's a bonus if any of them include STEM. And either one of you can chime in with ideas.
Well, Matt, you want to talk about what you and Kate are doing tonight?
Well, Kate and I are actually planning on going to go to a art class type thing at a friend's house.
A what thing? I'm sorry, I missed it.
An art class type thing.
An art class. Ooh, that sounds so cool. I love that. And Harriet, you're not going to the art class?
No, I actually have to work tonight, believe it or not. Yeah.
Did anyone tell you it's Friday?
Yeah, I know.
Dear.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
So, I mean...
and then... Go ahead.
Well, I mean, talking about during the pandemic, I think we all kind of adjusted and tried to find moments or hours of relief. I remember, and we still do this, is that in the late afternoons, usually about 5:30, we'd always go on a hike. I mean, we live in an area where there are great hiking trails and woods and that sort of thing. So that was always fun for us. We really enjoyed that.
And that is a very STEM-focused activity. You're observing nature and collecting maybe objects from nature, and I'm sure you're doing all kinds of science as you go on your hikes. And then building upon that, is there any, and this is for both of you as well, but trying to, come back into this whole STEM focus, is there any element or topic in STEM, within STEM, or closely related to STEM that you would like to further explore?
Well, Matt, I'm thinking, Matt's at the point now where he needs to begin to think about his specialization in his master's program. So what he's really interested in is reference librarian and archives and that sort of thing. And I feel like that is somewhat of a STEM-related field, and he's certainly using his computer technology background and his background in history. He specialized in that as well in undergraduate school. So I think that has really helped leading his career based on his interest and his skill sets. Would you agree, Matt?
Yes.
And why is it that you're most interested in going into archives and that sort of thing in terms of library science?
I guess because they probably interest me the most.
Sure.
And I think like within the library, there are so many concepts that are directly linked to computational thinking and science and STEM, even just putting the books in order, the old Dewey Decimal System and all that. And do they still use that? I'm not even sure. But like sequencing and patterning, you do all kinds of scientific activities as, a librarian, and you're doing research when you're going into the archives. And I think there's all kinds of overlap there with STEM. I think we're nearing the end, and I'm going to take another peek into our question and answer. We don't have any in there, but why don't we just go ahead and each say a take-home message? So this is your moment. This is your swan song, as Betsy would say. So both Matt and Harriet, why don't you both sort of think about one message that you would like all the participants here to know after having come to this session. Harriet, do you want to take the first stab at this?
I would again say, as a parent, it's important to have high expectations for your child, whether or not your child has disabilities or not, and focus on strengths and interest, really critical for success. And that everything we do in early intervention really impacts adulthood. It truly does. Matt was very fortunate. We lived in Chapel Hill when he was a young boy, and he was at a wonderful early intervention program. He was at the Frank Porter Graham Child Development Center and had great services and supports. And that launched him successfully into elementary school, and I think on. So the critical importance of this age range and focusing on their strengths and helping parents see that is just paramount, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I entirely agree with that statement. And in fact, those of you that were at Ching and Megan's presentation earlier today saw a video from FPG and one of the OTs working with a child. So a random connection there that I thought I'd throw out. And then Matt, do you have a final message for people watching here today?
Probably to view these people as, individual people.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's great. Each person is individual, and each person can and should be able to do all activities, be it in a classroom or in the community. And I think that's great. Everyone is an individual. And I do see we are at time, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Matt. This was fantastic. I think we have just a little bit more STEMIEFest to go, but We really appreciate everyone being here and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.